So now that we know there's something here that we can do, we're going to go to burp proxy, and we're just going to start the interceptor, and we're just going to send our alert request. We're going to hit search, and you can see that we see the first request that is being sent. It's search, and it's equal to whatever I typed in here. The only difference is you can see the percentage signs and the strange letters, such as this one. This is because it's just due to URL encoding. So the angle bracket in here, for example, is being converted to this. So anyway, we're gonna forward this because we've already tested the search parameter. It's the same parameter that we have in here. That's nothing new. It's nothing exciting. So we're gonna forward it. We're gonna see that there is another request being made. We're gonna let that go. It's not within the same domain. And then if we do that, you're gonna see that we have another request in here. So this time we have a parameter called token. So usually every time you see an equal sign, it means that we can send user input after this parameter. And therefore you can again use that parameter for all kinds of vulnerabilities, for XSS, for SQL, and for a lot of other things. So you would go ahead and just put it in a different text editor and just keep it in mind for future testing. Now, if we go another forward and another forward, you'll have the page loading. Again, you get the same result, nothing that fancy. But what we did so far is we actually discovered another parameter called token. So let's copy the token, this new parameter, and let's add it to our URL here, just to the end of the URL, ampersand token. And I'm actually just going to set it to something really silly. So we're going to set it to la 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 la. What I'm trying to do right now is simply just type in something silly, so then when I run this, I can actually look for my input within the page and then from there modify it and see what I can do with it. There was a question mark in here that I introduced from copy and pasting, which is not a very good skill. So I'm removing the question mark now and I'm hitting enter again. And what we're going to do in here, we're just going to inspect the element to see the code of the page. I'm going to do Control F to find, and I'm just going to look for la 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 to see if it's been injected on the page. And unfortunately, as you can see, it's 0 out of 0. So basically whatever I typed is not being injected within this page. Now, it's not being injected in this page, but it doesn't mean that it's not being returned as a response. So similar to the way that we use burp proxy to intercept requests, we can actually use burp proxy to intercept responses. And to do that, all we have to do is go to the options and scroll down and tick this box to intercept responses. So I haven't modified anything. I'm doing exactly the same search. We have an injection, it's the alert one. And then at the end of it, we have la 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 la. I'm gonna hit enter to send that. We're gonna forward, and this time we have the response. So note before, every time we used to use the burp proxy, we only see requests because the response option was not ticked in the options in here. So now because I tick the option in the options, I can actually see the responses and analyze them here in burp. Because the response is sent in stages, and the response that we're interested in is actually not going to be visible within the browser, where it will be for a very short period of time. And that's why we're using burp to actually keep the browser trapped. As you can see, the browser is trapped, and that's why we're going to be able to see it. So now if I look for la 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 la, here is the match. So you can see that whatever we're typing after the token is being injected in this specific line. This line is specifying the content security policy. And you can see that this is set to self, the object source is set to none, the script source is set to self, which is very, very important. And then other options we have in here within the content policy. And then after that, we have the token is equal to whatever we type. At this stage, you should go ahead and learn more about content security policy. You can just go on Google, look it up, and learn how it works. Or if you're doing courses or if you're doing these live classes, obviously you'll get introduced to it that way. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about content security policy. What is this? Content security policy is a browser feature that prevents XSS and other vulnerabilities. If you look it up, this is the first thing you'll see. So that should give you a clue already on why we are getting this behavior within our example. Why, when we type a script, we can see that it's being injected, and we see that the HTML injection is working as well. So the web application is treating our user input as code, not as user input, but we can see that the code is not getting executed in this page. So literally just looking at this line in here should give you a clue why your script is not working even though it's being injected, because the web application is actually misbehaving and is actually vulnerable and is actually injecting your code as code. The reason why it's not running, because the response is enabling content security policy and it's setting the script src to self. So again, like I said, you should go and read about this, but once you do your reading, you'll notice that setting this flag in the content security policy or in the CSP means inline JavaScript or inline scripts are prevented in this web application. So even if the web application has an inline JavaScript, it's not going to run it because the response is saying do not run inline JavaScript. So that's a big thing when it comes to hacking, especially if you're not a JavaScript programmer. If you're stuck at something that you don't understand what it is, you literally have to Google it and learn about it. Now, it's not always possible to bypass this, but luckily, if you remember, we're actually able to manipulate the value in the token in here. Therefore, we can use that to override the value for this security policy. Instead of having the script src in here, we can actually have an option called script source ELEN for element. Now we can use this option to overwrite the normal script source. So instead of it being set to self, we're actually going to set it to unsafe inline. Now again, I didn't just figure this out myself. This is not me being a great hacker or anything. If you just read how a CSP works and the different options that you have and the different values for the options, you'll understand that setting this option will help you override the normal script src, and setting it to unsafe inline means that you're enabling inline JavaScript. So right now my link or my URL looks like this. And whatever we type in the token, it goes in here, it goes in this line. And therefore, we're actually going to use script src element to actually override the normal script src that is being defined by the web application. So we're basically just going to do that. Instead of token equal to la, it's going to be equal. So we're just going to add a semicolon to append to whatever that is there. And we're going to make it equal to script src element is unsafe inline. So let's copy this and let's paste it in here, hit enter, and boom, here we go. We have our alert in here. So that was your introduction to CSP and how to bypass CSP.